Everyone says a crease-free foldable iPhone is impossible. Apple appears to have done it. A fresh leak claims the hinge and panel design is locked. The goal is a seamless display with no visible dip. If this holds, the entire foldable market just got a new benchmark overnight. This leak hits one nerve first, the crease. Every foldable lives or dies on that single line down the middle. You can forgive thick bezels. You can forgive a chunky frame. You cannot unsee a deep crease once you spot it. Now the claim. Apple has achieved a seamless, no-crease display. Not reduced, not improved. Seamless. That wording matters. It suggests Apple finally found a hinge geometry and panel support system that keeps the screen flat under pressure. The source says the solution mirrors the approach used on the Oppo Find N6. That phone has earned praise for a very subtle fold line out of the box, but reviewers also report a crease can become more visible after days of use. That detail is critical. It means the concept works, but long-term durability is the real boss fight. So, what is Oppo doing? A 3D printed liquid metal hinge. Oppo even markets it as a zero-feel crease. That hinge design spreads stress across a wider curve when the device closes, instead of forcing the screen into a sharp bend. It also supports the display from underneath so it does not sag into a valley. That is where the visual dip usually forms. And now, the big Apple angle. The leaker claims Apple demanded this standard before approving mass production. That tracks with how Apple operates. Apple does not chase first place. Apple chases the moment when the flaws are finally small enough to ignore. There is another twist. The leak suggests the same specialized hinge hardware could later trickle down to a foldable iPad. That matters because a larger foldable surface magnifies every problem. Any crease, any flex, any misalignment becomes more obvious at tablet size. If Apple has a hinge architecture that scales, it becomes the structural spine for an iPad or even a future iPad and MacBook hybrid fold concept. Now the schedule. Production targets are set for late 2026. That timeframe screams two things. Apple wants yield. Apple wants consistency. Foldables are brutally hard to manufacture at scale. You can make a small batch that looks great. The real test is shipping millions without defects, dust issues, hinge wobble, or screen failure. Let us talk hinge reality, because the hinge is the entire product. It connects two halves, but it also acts like a bridge under the flexible display. If the hinge does not support the panel during use, the screen can take pressure in the wrong place and fail. That is why hinge design has been described as a headache for Apple for years. It also explains why patents keep surfacing with new mechanisms and new support plates. Liquid metal keeps showing up in these reports for a reason. It resists bending and dents. It can be lighter than you expect. And the rumor mill claims it is 2.5 times stronger and harder than a titanium alloy. Whether the exact number holds or not, the direction is clear. Apple wants a hinge material that does not wear into looseness over time. In January, one leak said the main casing could be a combination of titanium and liquid metal, with the latter used for the hinge. There was also a detail that the liquid metal might be an improved version of what Apple used years ago in the SASM injection tool. That sounds almost funny until you remember the point. Apple has experience with the material. The company already knows how it behaves in production. Another hinge claim landed in February. The crease depth could be a quarter of the depth of the Z Fold 7. That is a bold comparison. It also points to a practical reality. Even if the marketing says crease-free, engineers still measure something. The question becomes whether the remaining fold line is visible in normal lighting at normal angles after months of use. Then there is manufacturing. In April, rumor mentioned chip-level, high molecular 3D printing technology. That phrase is doing a lot of work, but the core idea is believable. Use advanced 3D printing methods for ultra-precise hinge parts, possibly with complex internal structures that standard machining struggles to produce. Apple has used 3D printing in select ways already. The question is scale, cost, and repeatability. Now shift to the product concept. Apple appears to be prioritizing a foldable iPhone that acts like a compact phone when closed and an iPad mini competitor when open. That is the sweet spot. A pocketable device that becomes a small tablet changes how you read, how you game, how you edit photos, and how you multitask on the go. And multitasking is where software will either sing or fail. If this arrives around iOS 27, the operating system needs fold-aware behaviors. Reports suggest Apple may borrow ideas from iPad OS. Think side-by-side apps. Think in-app sidebars. Think of layouts that stretch cleanly from narrow cover screen to wide inner screen without breaking. Let us hit cameras, because this design will force new compromises. There is talk that Apple will use a camera plateau design, the large bar-style bump across one half of the enclosure. That could do more than house lenses. It can hide other components too, freeing internal volume for the hinge, battery, and cooling. One Weibo leak suggests two rear cameras arranged horizontally, possibly with a black plateau, rather than a color-matched one. That would be a strong visual statement, very different from the familiar square bump language. On sensor expectations, some chatter points to 48-megapixel rear cameras with 2 focal lengths. Another report from Jeff Pu mentioned a 7-piece and 6-piece lens arrangement on the back. That kind of detail reads like supply chain chatter, and it usually means Apple is pushing optical quality while keeping thickness in check. Front cameras get even more interesting on a foldable. One idea: a punch-hole camera on the outer display. That is the pragmatic route. Inside, the dream would be an under-display camera to keep the big screen clean. A foldable device lives on immersion. Any notch on the main inner panel would feel like a step backward. There is also Face ID versus Touch ID talk. Some reports say no Face ID, with Touch ID instead, potentially under the display. That would solve several geometry problems. Face ID needs a certain sensor stack and depth. The foldable introduces tight packaging, shifting angles, and more places to hide a fingerprint reader. Now the predictable core specs. The expectation is a chip on the level of the Pro models of that generation, plus serious memory. OneNote suggested an A20 chip with 12 gigs of memory and a C12 modem. If Apple is serious about multitasking and large-screen workflows, memory matters more than ever. Apps will stay resident. Switching will feel instant. That is the vibe Apple will want. Battery may become the sleeper headline. One leak claims the biggest battery in an iPhone to date, thanks to the physical size. That makes sense. 2 halves give you more room to spread cells. But power draw also rises with a big panel, especially at high brightness. Apple will need efficiency gains in the silicon, the display driver, and the software. Now the name. iPhone Fold versus iPhone Ultra. The rumor shortened says Fold, but multiple voices have pushed Ultra as a premium badge. Ultra fits the pricing tier. Ultra fits the ambition, and it signals that this is not a mainstream iPhone yet. Pricing, though, will be intense. Forecasts have thrown out ranges from $2,000 to $2,500. Other estimates tighten it to $2,100 to $2,300. Some capacity-based leaks go even higher, nearing $2,905 for 1 TB. No matter which leak lands closest, the message is loud: this will be expensive. And that price is not just brand tax. Foldables require complex hinges, flexible panels, extra protective layers, and strict quality control. Add a titanium and liquid metal chassis idea, and the bill of materials climbs fast. Add advanced manufacturing methods, and it climbs again. So, what should you watch from here? 3 things. First, long-term crease behavior. Not day 1, day 90. Second, hinge durability and dust resistance, because pocket grit destroys moving parts. Third, software polish across 2 screen sizes, because great hardware with awkward app behavior feels unfinished. If Apple truly has a crease-free result, that will force every competitor to respond. The foldable category has been waiting for a mainstream giant to set a new baseline. Late 2026 is a long wait, but if Apple ships a foldable that looks flat, feels solid, and runs like a real mini tablet when open, the wait will make sense. The new leak points to one massive win: a truly seamless inner screen driven by a next-level hinge design. If Apple can keep that flat look after months of folding, it will set a new standard for premium foldables. Late 2026 still feels far away, but the direction looks real, focused, and ambitious. Now I want your take. Do you care more about a crease-free inner display, or do you care more about battery life and durability? Drop your priority in the comments with one reason. I will read them all. So, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tech news and updates. Goodbye.